prior to like Spotify and all this other stuff, and like YouTube was like that platform that everybody used to go out there and really like show what they had. And I think like when I was growing up, like having an Asian guy singing like R&B music was not a thing. No. Like people did not expect that. So, you know, just to go back to Jeremy Passion, when he was doing it, I just had to jump on that fucking wave, dude. And I was trying to be a comic too, but I was like, yo, man, making people laugh does not get me vagina whatsoever. It would always be a situation where, like, if let's say I was at a bar or something, and this is like in my 20s, like, oh, man, you should meet my friend David, man. He's really, really funny. It's like, cool. And the girl's like, oh, you're really funny, cool. But then they would leave with some other guy, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to start doing music. That's what I need to do, because music is amazing.
Hell yeah. I remember watching your skits, because I was introduced to you with the UCLA girl video, the rant that you had about her. And then I think slowly on your channel you started to promote that you had your music channel. Yeah. And
I actually started with the music channel first before my comedy.
I didn't know. But yeah, and so like because you like cross-reference those channels together. Yeah. I clicked on one of your videos and you started singing. I was like, oh my God, dude, this fool can sing.
I wanted to be a musician first. So prior to my David So comedy channel, I actually had a music channel before that I deleted. So my type of personality, and maybe I didn't share this story before, but
deleted it?
I deleted it. And you know, at the time, I can't remember the exact subscriber count that I had on it, but it was pretty high for the time. And, you know, whatever, I might have said like a random number before just to give something, you know, give something for people to bite on. But let's say it was like, I don't know, like 100,000 followers. During that time, it was a lot. And this is during my music channel days. I deleted all those videos. So in the same fashion that I had with like Genius Brain, when I rebranded my channel from David So Comedy to Genius Brain, I did the same thing for my music to going into comedy. And the reason why I did that was because when I was trying to be a comic, there was a big issue that I had, right? And it's a lot of issues that I think young people have. When I was young, and the biggest problem that is having too many options, and I wanted to do everything and anything, and it's still a problem that I have till this day. It's like when you want to do everything and anything, the problem with that is that you'll never be able to master a single craft really well. If you master a craft, it's going to be a constant thing that's going on, but you won't be able to get to a certain level if you keep splitting up your time with 6 or 7 different things. Yeah. So when I started doing music, I started doing music and comedy around the same time, but I was way more into music than I was comedy. And so I had to make a choice. I was like, okay, so what are you going to be? Are you going to be a comic or are you going to be a musician? And during this time, I was putting more time into music, but I fell in love with comedy. So I had to make a choice. So I could keep this acoustic soul or whatever, but I felt that because I had this, it was going to hold me back. So I did a very tough thing at the time. I deleted that channel. I completely deleted it. Gone.
Really? Not just hide it, private it?
No, I don't even know if YouTube had that option at that time. Oh. Or maybe I was just dumb and I didn't know. And I just deleted the whole fucking channel. But I actually deleted my music channel that had maybe like 100,000 followers. And whatever that number was, it was a big accomplishment. Right. And I was booking shows through that, like San Francisco. And I was doing that show Collaboration before I even became a bigger YouTuber because I was so focused on music. Yeah. And so when I left that, I deleted it. I said, you know what? There's no turning back. Delete that channel, move on, start your comedy one. Yeah. And I started my comedy one, David So Comedy, after I deleted that channel.
So then how did you fall in love with comedy? Because like at that time you were so into music.
Yeah, but I was always doing comedy. Like I started, I had fake IDs. I would hit up these comedy clubs, and because I was like 6'1" when I was 3 years old. So you know what I mean. And I still don't have facial hair, but
I'm more curious about how your fake ID looked like.
It looked like a regular California license ID.
I know, but was it with your picture on there?
Yeah, I just look old.
I see.
Like I legit had the same face since I was like fucking 16.
Damn it, I was hoping that it was a picture that looked completely different from you.
No, it was my face. And you know, like some of these clubs don't give a fuck, dude. You know, so I would get into these comedy clubs and then long story short, I just started falling in love with comedy more. And to be honest with you, it was mainly because I think I was just a better comedian than I was a musician. Like I never really loved music as much as I loved making people laugh. Mm-hmm. And the reason why was because like even right now, and it goes back to me understanding just like music history. I know nothing about it. Like, we were struggling to say who Freddie Mercury was.
Yeah.
Somebody who's like highly iconic in music in general. And I don't know these people. I don't know all this different music. Even if you ask like hip hop artists, right? Yeah. You ask them about certain musicians that made big waves, even if it's outside of their genre, they'll know what they're talking about, or whatever that person's talking about if they're having a conversation with somebody about music. And that's because it's their job. I didn't have that same passion for music. I did not. And so for me, I had to understand, okay, are you going to waste your time on something that's just a hobby just because you're using it just because it gives you attention? Or are you going to put your time into something that makes you really happy?
Right.
And comedy made me happy. Comedy was a way for me since I was a little kid. I was a goofball.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know the craft about it. I didn't go to like UCB or anything else like that. I just had real world experience. I just went up on stage and I saw what happened. So comedy was something that just always rewarded me with something that was more than just like recognition. Like the ability to make somebody laugh about something you're not supposed to laugh about was a task that I really enjoyed. And it started off with me, right? So when, like, I think we mentioned this before on the podcast that we did, I was a fat kid. Still a bigger guy now, but as a fat kid, a lot of kids would make fun of you. Whether it was because of my glasses, the way I looked, the way I behaved, or it didn't really matter. But with comedy, you're allowed to take those negative attributes and flip it and make it into something funny. So I would do that by making fun of myself first before somebody else could. And for me, laughter and comedy was so healing. Which made me want to pursue it. And I think like that's why I went into the stand-up route.
Oh.
Yeah. So stand-up was like the big thing for me, because being able to grab a mic, go up on stage, make people laugh, and people said like, you just, you cracked me the fuck up and changed my perspective.
How was your very first performance like?
My very first performance was actually this church, like right around the corner from my place. It was right across this park that we used to go, but there was a church that opened up in like this warehouse area, and they did an open mic comedy night. And I just remember I just walked in there and I just did a terrible, terrible set. It was so fucking bad.
Oh no.
And then I,
bad because no one laughed? Or
nobody laughed. I was not funny.
I see.
And just because people don't understand, like, just because you're a funny person doesn't mean you could do stand-up comedy.
Right.
I have a friend back in Sacramento that wanted to do stand-up too. And he did stand-up. And mind you, if we're in a conversation, let's say like me and you, like let's say I'm me and you're him.
Right.
That fool could make me laugh and go into tears.
Yeah.
But if you put him on stage with the mic, because he thought that the conversations that we were having, that he could turn it into stand-up, but he couldn't, because it takes skill. It takes storytelling. It takes nuance. It takes practice. It's a really difficult craft.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm an amazing stand-up comic, but I can do it decently.
Yeah.
I obviously haven't practiced it in years, but this guy, he didn't really understand how difficult stand-up was. And so he went up on stage and he bombed. And this is him like later on. This is like after like 6 years I've been doing stand-up. He started doing stand-up too.
Damn.
And he would just go up on stage and fucking crickets.
No.
Because he would try to tell these stories on stage to a group of strangers. But the reason why they were funny to us is because the people that he would talk about in those stories, we knew who they were.
Yeah.
So there was already a background to it. So he would never
Yeah.
set up his jokes. And we would try to get him to understand that. And he just kept bombing over and over.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
It is. It's nerve-wracking. It's
Yeah.
hard. Stand-up is a very difficult craft. That's why when I watch people like Bobby Lee, he's been doing it for years. The guy's a master at his craft.
Yeah. Dude, obviously, I mean, I'm still a fan of you, David, but like when I was a super fan, like way back, because I didn't know much about you, I tried so hard to try to find videos of you doing your stand-up. And like I was just trying to figure out.
There's a few now.
I know there is a few. Like I managed to find a few. And I was one of those people that was so down and ready to fucking buy a ticket and watch you do stand-up.
Yeah. When I was doing stand-up pretty actively, it was only when I first started, like the first 2 years. And so I would go to like the Ice House Pasadena and I would like do material. But then I slowly started to find out that a lot of these college shows were different than doing a stand-up at an actual comedy club. So comedy clubs, they were a lot more open.
Yeah.
You could say what I'm talking about. You go to comedy clubs, depending on which one you go to and who goes up, people say some wild shit and nobody really gets that offended.
Yeah.
aside from saying very like racially offensive things, depending on who that person is, right? So like, let's say if a white dude's up there and he's trashing on black people as a joke, it's probably not going to go over really well, right? Or if a dude is trashing on women without any nuance and not without any background to it, then obviously it's going to go bad. But other than that, it's pretty open. It was like a safe space. You get to go up there, go to a comedy club, test your material out. If it fails, go back to the drawing board. Either you rewrite that joke. If you still believe in the joke, you either rewrite it or you trash it and move on. College shows were a little different. It wasn't a lot of the stuff that would kill in the comedy club that I would use. I would try to do it at college shows if people would get either offended or they feel weird about it. So I was like, oh, this is a very different space. So for me, before I would walk up on stage, I would like peep through the blinds and the curtains and I would take a look at everybody out there. Like what's
David so
I would look, I'm like, what's the age group?
How
many women are in there, how many dudes, and I would kind of base it off of that type of stuff just because like I felt like the college crowd was a little more sensitive. They wouldn't listen to the comedy, they would just listen for trigger words and get mad. And I hated that shit because it's like, dude, you got to listen to the content first. Like, don't just get angry just to be angry at this point. Right. So like, I mean, I plan to do stand-up again starting actually next year.
I would love to go and see you. I want to support you. Let me buy the ticket.
Yeah. So we're going to like, I'm definitely going to do stand-up next year for sure.
Yay.
Like people don't know, like in this phone and in my computer, I have literally like hundreds of pages of stand-up. I constantly write all the time. It's just something I've done since I was 16. So whenever I find something funny, I write it down.
Oh my gosh. So then like prior to you actually performing up on stage, how long do you practice? Like, do you do your whole set?
It depends. For me, because I had such short sets when I first started out and I was an absolute nobody, I rarely ever got like past 15 minutes to do a set. I didn't prep much. I had a lot of hitters and I would do a lot of crowd work.
I see.
The longest show that I did was out in Minnesota. I did an hour set.
Whoa.
Yeah, I did an hour set. That was super. Bart and Joe were there. So they were there to witness my first hour set.
Damn.
Yeah, I did a full fucking hour. And I don't remember anything that I said because it was such a last minute show. I didn't get to prep for it very well. And so it was cool.
Did they surprise you? It's like, oh, surprise, we booked you for an hour.
No, it wasn't confirmed that I was going to do the show. And it didn't seem like it was going to get booked, so I didn't prep for it.
Oh, I see.
So I was like, fuck it, it's not going to happen. So, and then when it got booked, it was like 2 weeks out and I was busy doing other things that I didn't really get to prepare. But the good thing is because I've done stand-up for so long, I still had a lot of old sets in my head.
Yeah.
And so I had to tweak it to make it funny. I mean, some of the stuff didn't do as well, but I mean, Bart and Joe said I killed it. I don't know if they were being nice, but I remember it went pretty well. I think people were laughing. I mean, I did an hour and then people were cracking up. So hopefully that means I did well.
Yeah.
But who knows? Like, comedy too, it's one of those things that I felt like after a while it started to die out for me. Not because I don't like stand-up comedy anymore. It was because I just was tapped out. Like it didn't bring the same joy.
Oh, interesting.
Because all I ever wanted to do was be a stand-up comic originally. That's it.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I was just like, there's other ways to make people laugh. And that's when YouTube popped up. YouTube was the way. I was like, I can make people laugh doing sketches and writing. And there's other ways to express my humor and get people to feel that same way through a different avenue. And that was through writing sketches, doing these comedy vlogs, so quote unquote vlogs, and doing that type of shit.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So you've changed a lot. Like your paths have changed quite a lot.
It happens, and people don't understand. Like people, how do you have your life figured out? I don't have my fucking life figured out.
No, I don't think anyone does.
Nobody does, dude. And that's what happens. A lot of people they look at somebody else and they say, "Well, how do I get to be that person?" Because they have everything figured out. They don't. Nobody fucking has shit figured out.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know what I'm doing at all. Out of our group, out of the main people, I'm probably the one that is the most lost.
No, you're telling me. I feel like I have like zero. I mean, I have a loose direction, but I don't even know how my life is right now. I don't even know how I'm living.
Well, and that's how life's supposed to be, though.